What's up? It's Lip Service. I'm Angela Yee.
I'm Gigi Maguire.
I'm Mora.
And I'm Humble the Poet.
There you go, Humble. Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, the women are very excited about your book because we got questions.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully I got answers.
You think this was like the most personal book for you to have written?
1,000%. I think as I got older, I'm starting to realize that all the walls that you build as a guy to like protect yourself is not a fortress, it's a prison. And for me now, it's like every book I write is just trying to get rid of that. And it's like, it's therapeutic and it's so inconvenient at the same time because you get yourself more and more sensitive and it makes it more difficult like on a day-to-day basis. But definitely, I let it all out in this book.
Ooh, well, listen, how to be loved and then how to be loved, I guess, in parentheses. And the way you start the book off, even just talking about like breakups, right? And realizing that like, because I think everybody here is like going through something.
I'm fresh off a recent breakup.
Right now. And then
I'm lost in the sauce.
That's what we all are.
That's a good way to put it.
she thought she was dating and
they weren't dating.
It just,
Situationship.
But leave it up to the next person. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about it.
Wait, so is that situation over? Like, is it no more?
Yeah, it's over.
And that's how you came to the realization that, in fact, it wasn't what you thought it was?
I mean, because so when we first started, I can't even
Hanging
say
out?
dating because I don't know whatever it was, but it was like
Spending time
dinners
with each
and
other?
Spending
like dinners and taking
Sharing
somebody out
energy?
is dating,
yeah,
right?
spending
dating.
time,
Okay.
spending
100%.
you know,
Sharing
sex,
energy, like that's dating.
sharing energy, talking to each other, getting to know each other, everything that it was a definition of dating to me.
Yeah.
Apparently to him, that was just friends enjoying each other's time, having a good time, which makes no sense. But, you know, of course, when the first couple of, to me, it was dates. It was more like, look, I'm in a space right now where I'm not looking for a relationship.
She said that, you said that.
We both shared that with
okay.
each other. I was like, at this present time, I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm not going on these dates with you. Like, this is the man that I'm going to be with. This is who I'm going to be in a relationship. But I do want to get to know you, getting to know each other because I have a lot of things going on. So my priority right now is not a relationship, right?
And he felt the same way.
And he thought the same way because and his reasoning was because he had just got out of a relationship 2 weeks prior to inviting me out. So I understood that, but dating to me is not a relationship. Dating is getting to know each other. And after a certain amount of time, it's like, okay, after getting to know each other for a couple of months, okay, is this something I would want or if this is someone? And then from there you go.
So you hit him with the what are we?
No, like I was just going with the flow organically, but it was more like the energy was there and he's taking me out every week, at least 2 to 3 times a week. We're going to dinner. We're spending time together. We're getting to know each other. We traveled out the country together.
Oh, wow.
And even that out the country was, everybody was like, is that your husband? Like, you get what I'm saying? It was energy. And I was getting the same energy that I was given. And I was actually more, because I was very conscious about not giving too much. I was like, okay, I'm going to give what I receive.
What do you think about that? Giving what you receive instead of doing maybe what's in your heart to really do. Because sometimes we do want to do a whole lot more than what we're showing, but we're trying to protect ourselves. And because he came out and said, I don't want to be in a relationship, I just got out of one. And you were like, okay, I'm with that. Let's just go with the flow.
Where you guys were, it kind of defined that it was a dead end from the beginning.
Well, not really, because it was open. You get what I'm saying? I wasn't, even when he invited me.
But clearly not in his.
Well, so this was a 4.5, this was the beginning.
Time span.
Right. After this, it's been 4.5, and literally that 4.5 months was literally constantly, every week we were out. He would write down while we going out and we're speaking, getting to know each other, things that I told him the next week. Whatever restaurant we went to had to do with something that I told him the week before.
So he was attentive.
So what do you think about this, Humo, so far analyzing?
I mean, it goes back to what I said in terms of like, you guys talking about you want to give more, but you're protecting yourself. But you don't end up protecting yourself when you protect yourself. That's the point. So what was happening there was like, you should be able to be whoever you want to be in a situation and not worry about how it plays out. But at the same time, instead of having expectations of the other person, set standards for yourself. So you'd be like, this is my standards. This is what is required for me to invest in a person. And the moment it's clear that person's not living up to those standards, you got to move on.
But he was living up to those standards.
This is what I'm saying, without trying to. So it was like kind of organically, we got closer and closer and spent more time in the conversations, like the deep conversations. And we was very clear on those things. And what got me is not even that. Like, I don't mind, like, at the end when how it kind of went, it was like.
How did it go? Yeah, like, how did it go? So how
it ended, exactly. Communicating every day. If I didn't text or anything, it's like, hey, are you okay? And vice versa. Yeah. But how it was ended is what kind of really got to me. It was kind of like, well, you know, I already told you that that's not what I was looking for. And I'm like, okay, and that's why I was okay with doing what we're doing, because that's not what I was looking for at that moment. But of course, that was 4 months ago where you was fresh out of a relationship.
So when did it change for you?
It didn't. What changed was we started talking. He's like, you know, I do see that you're enjoying, you know, you have feelings for me. I was like, I do, but I still understand and know that you're not ready for that right now. So whenever I'm ready and I feel like this is what I want and you're not giving, I don't mind walking away. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? That I was fine with that. But when I asked, okay, what is it? Okay, so you're not ready for this. He was like, actually, it's just I don't want to be in a relationship with you. I don't see myself with you going further. I'm like, okay, that changed things. You know, I was like, okay, well, give me, what is the reason I deserve, you know, after 4 months of spending all this time, what is those reasonings? And one of the reasons was because I have a kid, I have a son, and he doesn't see that fit into his lifestyle. So then I'm like, wait.
You knew that from the beginning.
If you would explain that to me from the beginning, I would have never even wasted this time going out like it. You get what I'm saying? That's not no more, because if I'm not good enough for you to be with you and to build something eventually, whether organically or whatever, if I would have known from the beginning that I wasn't good enough for you because I have a kid, bro, I would have not even, we would have been platonic friends. Yeah. We would have been friends, enjoying each other's time in a whole different way. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and I think it's fair to say, I don't want to be with somebody who has kids, but say it from the beginning.
Exactly.
It goes back to standards.
Right.
It goes back to like, this is what I can do, what I can't do. And I guess in the frame of empowerment, the best thing to do is focus on what was in your control. Focusing on his control doesn't give you any power moving forward. And I think it goes back to like, you're like, I'm open to whatever. But it does sound like, as you keep talking about the amount of time that went on and the consistency, how that created expectations.
And the conversations and the things that he shared, the things
like, did you say, like, are we exclusive? Are we like...
Because I wasn't, again, the exclusivity wasn't a problem. My problem was that piece of information is a very important piece of information that should have been shared for.
So it was, you made it clear that we were building something.
Right, whether it end up in just us being friends, because, you know, maybe I would have found somebody who's ready to be in a relation. And I told him I was talking to other people too. To me, when you're dating someone, it's open. I'm single, you're single, and we're dating. Yeah. You know, but again, to him, that wasn't dating. So my thing is, and like I said, okay, your definition of dating is different from mine. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? So I had a clear understanding of all of that. But again, it was just getting to know. If I would have known for the beginning, that is that I had a kid, so you could sleep with me and you could have a good time with me being a mother. But you don't see like that. You kind of, you know, it was false. His standards wasn't clear from the beginning. If it was clear, my standards were clear from the beginning.
Let me ask you this though, Laura. Do you think you were honest when you were telling him you didn't want a relationship?
I was, because I feel like right now, I still have some personal things within myself that I need to get to be able to be in a healthy relationship. I think, you know, that's why I'm in therapy. You get what I'm saying? I have a lot of financially, and I am a mother. Like and not just because love is love. It doesn't matter financial status, none of that. But within myself, like I have things within myself, some certain things that I want to accomplish within myself before I can be with someone. Some things that I feel like I need to improve within myself.
You want to fill your cup.
Self-love. I want full 100% understanding of self-love. So
at the end of this 4.5 months of you guys hanging out, if he was to come to you at this point and say, okay, I think that I see things in you that I want to pursue, and I think that we should move forward and actually date or create a relationship, you would have turned him down?
Date, yeah. Because his thing, dating to him.
But you thought y'all were already dating.
Right. Well, no, because we spoke about
his standards of dating.
So we spoke about the whole dating thing. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized, okay, your definition. I was like, well, my definition of dating is this, and this is his. I was like, okay.
He was like, we're just hanging out. He didn't want to give it a label of dating.
Exactly.
But if he wanted
and
to
that's
move
really
forward,
like an excuse.
Exactly.
That's like an out. So
you would have moved forward if he wanted to move forward.
Slowly, yeah. I would have, because but But then again, I'm saying he was a great guy. But now that he did this, I'm like, okay, well, you can't be that great of a guy.
Yeah, I think sometimes what guys do, and I feel like this is like the empathetic definition of a fuckboy. Okay? A definition of fuckboy with empathy, and take it as you want. Guys spend so much time trying to win a girl over when they initially meet that they don't take any time to figure out if the girl is good for them. So they spend all the, if I'm on a date with you, I'm just trying to get over your wall and win you over. And the truth is, you make it hard by building that wall. But once I get over that wall, it gets a lot easier for me and a lot harder for you. And then that's when I start to look at you as a human being instead of the prize. And now I try to figure out if we're compatible or not. And then by then, you might be a lot more hooked. And then for the guys, they don't realize they're doing it. And what they need to do is on date one, instead of trying to win you over and make you like them, figure out if you're a good fit for them. And I'm wondering...
Right, because why even waste the time if it's not going to fit anyway?
Yeah,
Prime
and it's
example.
like when I meet a person and I go on a date, it's not like, it was like, I'm not looking nothing for, like, yeah, you don't know me, I don't know you. I don't expect you to...
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? That's why we
But that's the dynamic, because women select. Women, men get chosen, women choose. So men spend so much time trying to get chosen, but then they have to choose amongst the women that choose them.
And you believe in soulmates, right?
I believe soulmates can exist, yeah. I don't believe they necessarily should be together, like the soul partners, soul friendships, all of that.
True.
So I think there's people that you vibe with and you gel with on a magical level. That doesn't necessarily mean you guys should be
together.
co-parents, sharing a mortgage, doing all that type of stuff together. So I think you can create healthy relationships with them. I think I have like maybe from like 10 years ago, an ex who probably is a soulmate, but I'm not trying to have her in my life every day. A good phone call once or twice a year, it's good enough for me. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your breakup. And, because I think some people stay in relationships too long.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel bad because you don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, because you do care and you can love somebody, but know that this is not what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So can we talk about your situation?
Yeah, I was with somebody who's amazing and like didn't have a petty bone in their body, always had my back, super loyal. But they were, in terms of where I was headed in my life, especially as an artist and especially as like a child of an immigrant whose parents had specific expectations, I think she was a lot more traditional in that context. And she kind of romanticized doing what your parents expect from you. And I'm more of the artist, which is like learn the rules only to break them. So there was kind of this tug of war going back and forth with that. And during that time, it was just a lot of anxiety. I didn't know what it was. And her way of dealing with it was pushing forward. Like, let's get more official. Well, let's make things more secure. That's how things will get better. And for me, it was like, no, I need to feel better about it. And then it took me like a year of therapy to figure out what it really was. And it was that it was a version of me that had to exist in that relationship that I wasn't happy with. Who I had to be to stay in that relationship wasn't somebody I wanted to be, because each of us know who we can really be and what our real potential is. And, instead of falling in love with somebody else's potential, we need to fall in love with our own potential. And I wasn't living up to my potential in any way, shape, or form. So
she proposed to you too. How did you feel when that happened?
It caught me off. I didn't know it was real when she did it, because she didn't.
Wow.
No, because she didn't have a ring or anything. We were in Trinidad.
You like, where is my ring?
Well, it's not. It was just like we were in Trinidad, and a bunch of friends were there. We were there for the carnival, and then at the end of carnival, like the last day, everybody just gets on a boat and there's one part that everyone parties. So we're there, and I've been to Trinidad 5 years in a row. It's all pre-pandemic stuff. And then she's like, oh, I want to go see that beach, which we've seen before. So for me, it was like, I had no idea why she wanted to do it. So I'm like focused on like not stabbing my feet wherever we were walking on the beach. And then she goes on her knee, and I thought she fell. And she said, and then she goes, I got you a necklace, but it didn't arrive on time. So she had nothing in her hands. And she goes, and listen, I don't want this to stress you out, but I do think that we should make this official. And then when I looked, I saw all my friends with their cameras. Then I knew it was official.
Look at Gigi's
really
face.
A proposal.
Yeah, but the ironic thing was I was already like I had already.
Propose to her?
Yeah, I was, because she was talking about a specific type of diamond she liked, and I had found somebody who had just gotten married with that. I think black diamonds. So I was asking him and learning about it. And then she was living in New York. So then the other thing I was trying to do, and I'm revealing all this and I hope you don't see this, but there was these kids that we'd always see on the J train dancing, right? And we'd always see them. And I wanted to get them involved and do the proposal on the train. So I had this kind of romantic
had a whole
idea,
thing planned out.
and it would have been a couple of months later. Yeah, but that she just kind of caught
What
me
was
off
your
guard.
reaction to her on her knee?
Like, what was in your
once
head?
Right.
I said,
you
it was
saw-
yes, everything was
Yeah.
great and fine. It was like complete shock, but like it was caught off guard. Told our families everything was fine at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, like me diving into the book was after that.
Right.
Did you get your necklace?
No, I did. No, sorry, I did get the necklace. And again, it wasn't like a piece of jewelry. It was
Right.
like I think it was like her father's. I think it was like a tiger tooth and a necklace that her father had growing up. So she was giving me that.
Okay.
Yeah, because she knew I wasn't responsible enough for jewelry.
And then after that, do you just completely cut ties with the person because you know it's going to hurt them too much to still like speak to you and stay in contact?
So, I mean, we probably had like no contact for like 3 months, and then she hit me up on something like, "I'm over it now. We can be best friends." And then it definitely wasn't true. But then we had that. Then we had a friendship for about 6 months, just platonic, see each other maybe once every other month type situation. And then I think that brought up more drama. So it's been about 2.5 years since the breakup, and after that, probably maybe 6 months ago is when we
No
finally
contact.
got to like okay. No hard feelings. I still consider you a family member. You consider me a family member. Hit me up if you need money. Hit me up if you need a place to hide. Hit me up if you need help that nobody else can help you with.
Got you.
If you have a bad day, don't call me. That's not who I am. I'm your emergency person and
breaking
vice
case of
versa.
emergency.
Yeah, that's it. So that's where we're at in terms of good stuff. But
What did she
like,
think about the book?
She won't read it.
Yeah, it's painful.
Because I had seen her. She had been in LA, and I'd seen her. And then I said, "Oh, I have like a draft in the car if you want to see it." She was, "Oh, I already decided I'm not going to read it." But I have another ex in there who just messaged me who read it. She goes, "I only read my parts. They were okay." Yeah.
Wow. Like I love she approved. She approved.
I think she approved. She literally said, "I bought the book, I read my parts, and then put it away."
Now, when it comes to love in the book, you said you can't avoid getting hurt.
Yeah.
Right? So let's expand on that a little bit. Wow. Because it is a risk. Anytime that you do that, and there's going to be things that are going to hurt. And so you have to be open to knowing that's going to happen, and that's part of the journey. Right? So you think love has to hurt?
I think life has to hurt. I think you don't learn any other way. Like, you're having a good day, you don't learn. Like, you need pain. So I think it's just about looking at pain from a different perspective. And I think the recipe for love is vulnerability. You put yourself out there, by default, it's going to hurt on some capacity. So I think the challenges that we have is trying to avoid the pain. You know, I think, and even with mental health, like avoiding anxiety is what creates mental health issues. It's not anxiety. It's trying to suppress the anxiety. So suppressing pain is the reason we're even more uncomfortable. Avoiding a fight is the reason the fight gets worse. Right? So it's like actually lean into this stuff.
Just get through it.
Get through it, or look forward to it. Like, set yourself up in a situation where you can do it. If you're going to have a disagreement, set up a time and make that happen. And also, yeah, you're going to put yourself out there and understand that, like, if I ask somebody for their phone number and they say no, that's their story, not mine. And that's no different than somebody coming to my front door trying to sell me a dishwasher. And I'm saying, I don't want a dishwasher.
I don't need it.
That has nothing to do with them. It has no impact on their value. And it's the same thing. If I reach out to somebody, or if I'm with somebody or dated somebody for a couple of years and they decide they don't want to be with me no more, that's really their story, not mine. And I think reframing that and really understanding that, because we don't do that when it's the other way around, because we know that. If we don't want to be with somebody, it really is our story. It's less about them. It's about either they scratch an itch that we want scratched, or we think that needs to get scratched, or not. So I think for me, it's like, don't avoid pain. If anything, seek pain. If you seek pain voluntarily, like when you work out in the gym, you are voluntarily
No
making
pain, no
yourself-
gain, baby.
No pain, no gain.
No
yeah.
weakness.
Pain is weakness leaving your body.
Exactly. And if you voluntarily do it, then when life comes your way, you're better prepared for it.
Yes.
Right? So that's the best way to do it, even with love.
And when it comes to arguments too, I always feel like, yes, you're going to get in arguments, but you have to figure out how to effectively argue
Yeah.
with each other. What's your argument style?
Currently, my argument style, I just pop off and it sucks.
I'm a work in progress, guys.
Yeah, no, 'cause and recently, especially like being in LA, like what I realized was, like, I'm like, okay, I pop off too much. Then I went over the other way, like became docile. And then, like, you know, certain women who don't know the difference between aggressive and assertive take that as weakness because you're not saying nothing. So like they're popping off at you and you're staying quiet. And then, you know, and then they start to interpret that as a certain thing. And then you're like, then you pop off and then they look at that as a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're in a partnership with somebody, you got to look at it as you and your partner versus the problem,
Right.
not you versus your partner. And it's got to be like, okay, we currently have a problem. Let's work on this together.
To figure out this problem.
And maybe we need a half an hour break to get our mind right before we approach this, but we need to approach it like that, not with emotion. And then keep the problem at the size of the problem. If you guys are arguing over dishes, keep it at the dishes.
Right.
Instead of bringing in...
Well, last week you came home late.
Yeah, but that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. And it's
Everything that was bad, you bring up. And you're like, why didn't you tell me at the time? Because that's another thing, too. Like,
Resentment.
sometimes you let what you're mad about, you be like tallying it up. So that later on when something happened, you bring it all up.
You're keeping score. You're keeping score and then you lose. Because this is you and your partner,
I do agree with that. Like, I must say, like, it was painful, you know, to hear that I wasn't up to the standard of what he would consider someone who fits his lifestyle and compatible with him because of that. But after, like, while going through the process and just the hurt and just, you know, and at that moment, it's funny how it happened because she was out of town. Like, I had, you know, I spoke, but I didn't really have, so I had to deal with it and cry and talk to God. And again, it's nothing like, oh, I was in love. It's just like, how is it that from in these 4 months, God, what was the message? What was this person in my life for? Obviously, it wasn't for him to be my husband. What, you know, it was like, okay, you're in pain, but what did you learn? And I learned, honestly, how I want to be treated by a man, because that was part of the things that I love. I didn't love him. I'm not going to say I loved him, but I was in love with how he made me feel the moment that I was with him, the times that I shared with him, the support, the encouragement he gave, you know, the advice, some things like, it's like he saw me. So it was kind of like, okay, I haven't been treated like this. You know what I'm saying? Even going out the country together, the things that I experienced, it was something I never experienced before. So it's like, I'm in pain, but then I remembered, okay, I like this. So I extracted the good things of that. And what I did learn is like, okay, so now moving forward, from the jump, standards. Do you have a problem? Or do you ever see yourself with a person who has a child? Like that's what I learned from it. Moving forward, this is what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm saying?
And he has no kids. I think sometimes guys who have kids like to be with women who have kids also. I've heard that a lot because they can see like how nurturing that you are with your children, and then they feel more comfortable with you being, you know.
And it was a shock for me because mostly the guys that I attract, and I said that, and it's funny because one of my friends I was talking to about it, she's like, you was just saying like, yo, I attract men without kids. Like most of the men that I attract don't have kids. And in my mind, it was always like, you know, trauma and just from being a teen mom, that's something that, and it was triggering for me. Because from when I was 16 and I had a kid, my family said I wasn't going to be shit. You know, you're not going to graduate from high school. Nobody's going to want you. My brother telling me, oh, you ain't never going to find. So, and that's what I was just trying to get him to understand. Like, it was probably not your intention to cause this, but the fact that I'm telling you it pains and I'm explaining to you that pain, you're not acknowledging and saying, you know, you're not taking back like, okay, I see it. I'm that was the part. It wasn't him not, because listen, he lost someone who would have been supportive, loving, like I am the total package. You're going to I am.
Yeah.
And I know that and I know my worth, but it was just so frustrating. I was like, damn, I just
all
want
my
you
friends
to
be like, what's up with Laura? So,
did you feel like your time was wasted?
That's how, and that.
But you did learn your standards.
I learned my standards. So I'm looking at it as again, I'm deciding to extract what God put people in your life sometimes for a reason and a purpose, and and it's just looking at whatever the blessing was for that.
And God, because 4 years,
right? Like I still don't think he's a terrible guy. Whatever woman he decides to be with, the person that, because he was dating, you know, somebody was more compatible, a fit into his lifestyle. The way he treated me in that moment, and to him, that wasn't even, I could imagine how amazing he's going to be with that woman.
To the woman that he really
Well, but do you think it was necessary for him to say it's because you're a mom?
No, I think, I mean,
he didn't want to tell me. I said, just give me that because my mind, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I mean, as a guy, I've been told that story both ways. It's, you know, if you find a woman with a child, they got their shit together and they have priorities and they know how to handle stuff, and shit hits the fan, you know, you can lean back on them. But I've also heard stay away from women with kids because there's also a whole other dude that may or may not be in the situation that you may have to deal with in certain capacity. Like I have a friend right now who's been married for 5 years to a woman who has a child. The child now, he's 15, 16. And my friend enthusiastically is doing the paperwork to adopt, to make it legal, to do all of those things, treats every single night if he's not home, still calls his new son, and you can see that that's a fit for him. And I got a cousin who's also married somebody with a kid, and it works out despite families having opinions and all that. And I think it's more that should have been on his standards list from day one.
Right. He shouldn't even done that. Because I know
This
for
is
me,
what I'm
like
saying.
dating a
And it
guy
goes
with
back to
kids
that,
is
yeah.
tough.
This is
You
what
know,
I'm saying.
depending on how old the kids are.
Because you're
like,
thinking the same way. Like, there
I
could
don't
be
wanna have
another
to deal
woman
with
there,
your baby
drama,
mama.
all
Right.
that,
And then my
yeah.
kids, mind you, 21 and 11. That's why it was a little, but that's exactly
Yeah.
what I meant. Like you said that the standards were not clear from the beginning.
And
'Cause
that's
if
what's
that
got to
was-
be for. And the only way you can effectively do that is communicate yours. Be like, I have a child. You got to let me know. Maybe in his head he's like, okay, I've never had that experience. Let me try it out. And if we gel
Right.
well enough, I'll be able to deal with it. And especially if you're talking about one of your children is an adult. That shouldn't even be a factor.
he's
in
not
any
a
of
kid.
this. Yeah.
Yes.
He's
But
on
it
his
does
own.
sound like at the end of the day, he was a teacher. Like you say, God.
This
put
is what I'm
people in front
saying.
of you.
So I'm
Yeah.
not upset
I feel like
at
he's
him.
gonna come back too. You know, guys always try to. Come
Oh, they
back.
always come back.
Protect
and I
your
can't-
standards. Protect your
Always come
standards.
back.
And it was like, oh, let's be friends. I'm like, how could I be? But I need my time.
Later.
You
Maybe
know,
later.
later on, I know. But again, yeah, I'm happy. I'm now. But them first couple of days, it was just so confusing.
And
you
look,
know?
and that's why you got to embrace the hurt too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to allow yourself to
You got
cry.
to sit in the.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I love how you brought up God too. I have a chapter in the book that talks about the importance of prayer, even if you're not religious, because prayer teaches you to learn about yourself, what you genuinely want, and what you're genuinely grateful for.
Yeah.
Because those aren't things you'll tell other people, what you actually want in your life and what you're actually grateful for. And you get that through prayer. And that's a great way to develop a stronger relationship with yourself.
Well, since this is lip service, let's talk about sex a little bit and
Yes.
sex life when it comes to being loved. All right. And so you said your sex life should get better,
Yeah.
right, as the relationship progresses. But I've heard a lot of situations where people stop having sex, where maybe like the spark is gone. And I've heard this so many different times from people. Like it just started going downhill. At first we were having sex all the time. And then as life happened and, you have kids or you have responsibilities, or maybe it's just not like that honeymoon phase. And that starts to fade a little. And sometimes people say it feels like a chore, who knows what it is. So can you talk a little bit about this importance of sex when it comes to love?
Yeah, I mean, it's a level of intimacy. And the thing is, that should evolve because, I think in the beginning, you're first dating somebody, you're having sex, it's almost performative. You almost you're having sex with them because you want them to like you and you do it in a certain way, but you may not even be having some selfish sex to get yourself off. But when you're in a marriage, and you've seen each other at your best and at your worst and everything else, now there's this deeper level of intimacy and vulnerability that can get explored. And I think those conversations have to happen. The idea of it being a chore, yeah, it is. All the important things in life are chores.
It's a blow job.
Yeah, blowjob.
But
But it's just like brushing your teeth. It's just like taking a shower. It's a chore, right? And I think from that situation, you're right. I saw an intern I saw a comedian that talked about, she's like, I don't do blowjobs, I do blow internships.
You know what?
I thought it was so funny from that side. But you gotta recognize that like this is a language of like communicating with each other. And I think the longer you're with somebody, the more comfortable you are, you'll be able to have conversations as to like why it's not exciting anymore or what new things can be done. I think like Jordan Peterson had a really cool idea of like cheat on your partner with your partner. And it's like half the reason you're not having crazy wild sex at home is because you got to clean up after. Like go to a hotel, wear completely different clothes, different makeup, different everything. Trash the spot. Do it and then leave. That ain't your
on that
problem.
hotel
Yeah.
bed. You ain't got to
And you
clean
ain't
that
got no kids, you ain't got none, you got all of that. Anything
Make all the
like
things you want. Let them complain.
yeah, because you're chasing a feeling. You're not chasing a new. It's not always about a new person. It's about a mystery. It's about something like that. And exploring ideas of compersion, the idea that like their joy brings you joy. Figuring all that out when it comes to like non-traditional setups and situations. But I think it's more about that. And I love like what Tom and Lisa Bilyeu said. Their rule is no one is shamed for asking for sex. No one is shamed for denying sex.
Right. Okay.
And I think it's just, again, there's a lot of us are carrying stuff from our childhood around sex in terms of like shame, guilt, religious beliefs and all of that. And I think that doesn't ever get addressed in a relationship as well. You got to have that conversation because there's an opportunity for you guys to be like super intimate with each other and vulnerable. And the more vulnerable you are with anybody, romantic or not, the deeper your connection is going to be.
I feel like people be so like scared to talk about sex. Even having this podcast, people be mad about like questions that I can't believe you at like.
Oh my God,
the whole point is
so
conversations
upset with us for the
Glorilla.
For King Kong's
episode.
episode. They're still in my comments like, why would y'all talk to him about that? He's a grown man, ma'am.
Part of it is also like letting people understand that whatever you do is nothing like strange or weird about what two consenting people decide to do in the bedroom. Right? Now, what is a balance between, let's just say one person wants to experiment with something, the other person doesn't. Like, how do you make that compromise? Because I know it's a hard no if one person's not, comfortable, but what about being open to exploring even something that maybe you hadn't considered before? Because a lot of us do have these ideas of this is taboo or I shouldn't be doing this that comes from, our childhood, our culture, society.
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes back down to the feeling. So it's like if I say I want to do this, is it because I saw it in a porn or one of my friends was bragging about it? And you have this idea, but there's a feeling associated with it. Maybe the feeling is power. Maybe the feeling is dominance or being dominated, whatever the feeling is. And I think it's about having that conversation and being like, well, why do you want to do this? How am I going to feel safe in this? And you got to have that kind of unsexy, boring conversation around sex. And I think those unsexy conversations are the way that people are going to feel comfortable enough to be who they want to be. And then, as I said, like have it to the point where it's like, well, okay, if we can't do it here, what other options exist? You know, is there an option to compromise? Can we go out to some foreign country and find a worker out there? Well, like, what could it be? But just have every conversation.
But I can get you somebody.
Whatever you gotta do.
And I think, but at the end of the day, it's about having that open conversation. And I think when you don't have the open conversations, you get the resentment. When you get into resentment, you're falling down a pit, and that's going to impact the love and the quality of your relationship.
What are your thoughts about open relationships for you personally?
For me personally, I haven't met a couple in their 70s in an open relationship. I feel like just anecdotally, I have a friend, Aubrey Marcus, who was like one of the most famous guys in a polyamorous relationship. He had like 5 girls, all public, had them all on Instagram. They also had other partners. He would hang out with their other partners. And for him, it was like this mega spiritual experience. And he's like, it was an ego killer to hang out with the other guy having sex with your girl. Like it's an ego killer for him. And he would do it. But then, he had this going on for maybe 3-4 years. And then he broke up with everybody, met someone new and got married.
Oh, wow. So he got out of his system and he moved on to what he really wanted.
So now he's in a monogamous relationship with one person. And, I think it's interesting. And then he talks about the polyamory as being an important step in all of that. And I think there's an interesting side to it. I think the openness, what it is really recognizing that we all come from communities and heritages where like 500 years ago, we would have been small villages and we were a part of the village. The village raised our kids, but the village also kind of gave us all of our needs. And then you come out here, you marry one person, you guys live in your little apartment in a city, like kind of in a shelf, in your bubble, and it's you and them versus the world, and it's you and them for everything. That person's got to be there to split the bills with you, take care of the kids.
No village.
All that, they're your village. And I think acknowledging that they can't be your village. And I like what Esther Perel said, where she's like, monogamy used to be one person for life, now it's one person at a time.
At a time.
So now it's like the definition of it's all changing. So it's like, obviously as a guy, having as many women sounds super appealing and to me, but I can also understand that like outside of the sex side of it, like these are real human beings with real needs and they need attention and all of that. And it goes back to what you were saying about, it's really about feeling seen. If one person helps you feel seen, then you can have that. And so I think, by all means, try it. Just keep the communication open. And as I said, I don't know too many people that lasted very long.
But it's not for you.
I tried it. It lasted 2.5 years.
2 men, 2 women? Anything?
Well, no, it was just not polyamory, just an open relationship.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was fine with whatever was going on because, I was like a little younger and just was kind of just, living my life. But we ended up breaking up because he got somebody pregnant and lied to me about it.
Yeah.
Secrets.
Yeah. Secrets, yeah.
So it's
Secrets ain't good.
I don't want to have a kid. I'm not going to get pregnant. We both know that you're sleeping with other women. So why do I find out mistakenly from your friend that you have this baby on the way? And then when I confronted him about it, he still continued to lie. Like the kid had a name.
You know what I'm saying?
Like you'd already named this kid and You're building a nursery across the hall for this kid. You're cleaning out a room currently. Clearly, it's going to be a nursery for this kid that's coming. And you still like lying to me about it. So that's what ended the relationship. Now, who knows how long it would have lasted. It eventually would have ended anyway, right?
Yeah.
But it was an experience, and it's something that I can check off the list and say, well, try that. Don't think I would do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just don't see it working out. Like you said, you don't know anybody that's in their 70s.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
right. I don't
and
see
maybe
that
I'm
working
going
out
to
for
the
the
wrong
long
places,
haul.
but I just like that's the big thing. I knew a girl who was in a. She wouldn't let me call it a throuple, but it was like it was 2 women and a man.
Yeah, I also wanted to try that at one point.
Yeah,
I never got
did.
around
You
to
were
it,
like, I
though.
want to get a girlfriend for us.
Yeah.
So they weren't girlfriends. They viewed it as like co-dating this guy.
No. I wanted to have sex with a girl that was
Co-parenting.
having
Literally
sex with me.
co-parenting. And then they had some really interesting rules. One of the
It
rules
was very
was
specific is what I wanted. I wanted us all to have sex.
all of you guys have.
I wanted us to have sex. I wanted them to have sex. I wanted
Okay.
everybody to have sex.
Yeah, this one was like they took turns
Oh, no.
dating, but I think what they were trying to do was view it like, okay,
If he got us, he ain't got nobody. He don't have room for nobody else.
that, but also like there's certain things he likes that I don't care about. That's for
okay.
you. There's certain things, and
So I'm a swallow when you can put it in her butt. Got it.
but also I think also in terms of like concerts, museums, dinner, family.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the rules I thought they had that was really interesting was if he's mad at one, he doesn't get to see the other.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, like you're mad at her. Don't bring that.
You're only
energy
going to
to
be laying
me.
around talking shit about me.
You can't. Yeah, you can't be bringing that aggression and deal with that.
Deal with that and
Yeah,
then come back over
don't.
Let
Yeah,
me tell you what Gigi did today.
That was a lot of work. That sounds like a lot of work.
yeah, and again, that didn't last either. So
Well, let's talk about secrets in relationships, right? Because like you said, it's more work to hide
more with the hide one. Yeah,
a secret. By the way, is that really beard implants?
no, that was a joke.
Okay, just making sure.
No, it's all, I'm all
Sure?
natural. I'm all
Because I see a
natural.
little patch. No. So
good
have
for
you
now.
guys ever had a secret in a relationship that really was like eating you up, that was like really hard work for you to have to hide something from someone?
It's hard for me to hide stuff.
Me too.
Like, yeah, it's hard because it'll eat me up inside.
And are all secrets bad?
All secrets aren't bad.
Nah.
No. Because sometimes it's kind of like omitting. Like you don't want to tell somebody something that you know is going to hurt their feelings or is going to make them feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. So instead, you just hold it in.
I feel like if I
becomes
can't
a
be
secret.
open with you and I can't just tell you things, then maybe you're not.
But you don't have to tell everybody everything either.
Right, yeah. But you mean like in a relationship, right?
But
Yeah.
even that, like if I have a secret and I'm dating somebody, the damage is holding the secret. I could tell a friend.
Right.
As long as somebody else knows my
about
secret.
it.
I
Not
know,
my
you know,
partner.
popularly they used to say that if you cheat and you don't get caught and you're probably not going to, not to tell because that's really relieving yourself and hurting the other person.
Yeah, 100%,
Right?
yeah.
So
It's guilt.
so that is a secret though.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that then?
I think that guilt eats away. I think what I've noticed, you know, just throughout my journey in the entertainment space and whatever, is just when people do shady stuff, they have to feel it. I don't think anybody gets away with being
I believe
shady
that. I believe
in
that.
any capacity. So even if it seems like they got away, they don't.
It's
Like
gonna
it's
be-
really impacting their peace.
Yeah.
And whether that shows to you or not. So I think I get a sense of peace off of that if I come across somebody who's just not above board and it's just like, okay, you got to deal with that. And I think for me, even whenever I did, even when I had a situation which was open and I was given permission to do as I please, even then there was still guilt because you didn't know how to communicate it. You didn't know how to say like, oh, I can't see you today because I lined something up. Like you just didn't know. Right. And it still ate away. And I think that manifests in overly compromising and then being super nice to your partner or
Right, he
being
being
snappy.
too nice. You done came home with some flowers.
Yeah, but it's true. I think there's a lot of that. And I got a couple of friends who, you know, they're not living right now. And the way they justify it is by overly taking care of their family.
Do you feel a responsibility when you have friends who aren't living right to
No.
speak to them about it?
No. As
Even
I said,
as a
they're
friend?
feeling it. No. I feel like as an adult realizing that that's way more common than expected. And I also, this is anecdotal. This is not science. What I've noticed is the guys that I've grown up with who are not crossing the line, the only reason they're not crossing the line is because they have women with clear boundaries. It is very clear that they will lose everything. And I feel like the ones that cross the line probably have been caught and are still in their situation.
Reckless.
And I have friends who are like public figures who behave, like completely behave. And I was like, how do you do it? They're like, because I have children and a wife and a house, and I will never see it again.
Right.
I will lose it. And it's clear that they believe their partner when their partner says that you cross that line, it's over. It goes back to boundaries and standards. Put your foot down and mean it. And actually mean it, yeah.
What are some secrets that you've kept that you feel like, okay, this wasn't something that I did have to share? In the past, obviously.
I feel like I've kept secrets for other people. I've gone to like parties and seen people's partners not there. And and these aren't like my close friends. And I've had to like, realizing that, you know, there's a little bit of a currency to gossip even with your partner, like, oh shit, look what I just saw. But knowing that like that might make it go, that might get it out there at some point, especially if we're not together. So I think that's been one. And then maybe just not doing the work to articulate my own needs and figure out why I wanted something or not wanted something. I think those are probably the big ones. But I think the heavy secrets, I've let them all out, whatever they had to be.
And you also mentioned porn earlier, right? And you do talk about porn in this book. Yeah. And so you think like a little bit of porn is okay, but too much can indicate an issue, or you think no porn at all? So
according to, I have some therapist friends, I think the good definition is for a male, if he can't masturbate without porn, then it's gone too far. So like somebody's dealing with porn addiction.
You're right. Oh, Anthony just held up both hands. I thought he was about to masturbate. Like, okay.
Right. He did it 10 times in one day.
So the recommendation to get off people off porn addiction is that, yeah. She's like, can you just masturbate without any visual stimulation? You know, so I think that there's an example of that, and that's kind of like the sexual can't start my day without coffee type situation. But I think, and again, to me, the idea is less about, it's not a moral thing. I think it's just more about hyper-normal. So it's just like humans, our world has evolved so much, but we as the actual creatures haven't. So like we're not even used to the amount of salt we eat. We're not used to half the colors we see, you know, any color that doesn't exist in nature, and we're staring at it. That's why like the McDonald's logo is so prominent. These are very strong colors. So all of that impacts us and acts as stimulation that slowly kind of like kills our reward system. So porn is the same idea where like you have these women who are all dolled up. You don't see what they look like normally, and they are completely yes to whatever you want. And Chris Rock said it too. He goes, if you don't think you have an addiction with porn, look how your porn preferences have changed over time. It's not as, you know, what you were doing in year 1 isn't what you're looking at year 3. It gets weirder and weirder and weirder. So I think there's something about
like,
that.
Further down the rabbit hole.
That's what I'm saying. There's a rabbit hole, and these rabbit holes exist. So
yes,
I think
they do.
You know what's funny? Like the porn I like to watch be like really like man and woman having sex, like things that it could have been like that I could do. You know what I'm saying? I don't really like to watch really weird porn.
Yeah.
I want to see like fisting.
See, I don't want to see that. I'd be like, like I don't want to see. But I like to watch like vanilla
porn.
And even vanilla so hyper realistic.
And I can't watch the whole thing. Like if I watch it and I get off, I'm ready. Okay, I can't keep watching it. I got to turn it off.
Yeah, you got to turn it off.
Yeah, I have to turn it off.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch more than probably like 10 or 15 minutes ever.
I think that's for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just that hyper normal side of it, because even the vanilla stuff is still well lit. Everyone's still done up, like everything's still set up in that. So I think it's, and for me, it's more, as I said, and I put porn and Disney movies in the same category. They still create these expectations if you're not self-aware. And that's why I brought up like the Ross.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs sounds like a train.
You know what?
Come here, Sleepy. How about you, Drowsy?
Exactly. So it's not a moral thing for me. It's just more like, yo, how do all these stimulants impact us then? Because I remember like being super young and being this young men's group, and it's like, how did you know you were a man? And one dude said, the first time I saw a hair on a woman's nipples. And he was like, that's the first time I realized this is what real life is. Wow. And it's not, because when you're 13, 14, everything is like,
you're never going to see hairy nipples on a woman in the porn.
Yeah.
Unless it's like
fetish.
Unless,
let me Google that.
You go deep enough down the rabbit hole, the Gigi rabbit hole.
Right, you're ready.
You know I'm about to look it up, you guys.
Yes, please.
Now let's talk about, you also have a part of the book where you talk about putting yourself first versus being selfish. and the difference between those two things. Because I think a lot of times, like, we are taught that in a relationship, sometimes you put your own needs to the side to kind of cater to the other person, to make things work. But sometimes we lose ourselves when we do that. So can you talk about the difference between putting yourself first and also not being selfish?
Yeah. So the way I put it is it's not selfish to put yourself first. It's selfish to expect other people to put you first. And I think, what we need to realize is we're of no value to other people if our cup isn't full. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that we're in a good situation to be of value to anybody else. Make sure our cup is full. Make sure our needs are met. Understand that as adults specifically, we can meet way more of our needs than, maybe when we were kids. So when we discover that certain needs weren't met growing up, my parents didn't do this for me, so-and-so didn't teach me that, we can be that for ourselves. And when we do that for ourselves, now we have an abundance of love, respect, everything that we can share out with the world. And I was watching a Kevin Gates clip where he's talking about, like, make yourself happy and that will make other people's happy much more than trying to make everybody else happy.
Can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they say if the plane, there's no oxygen, you got to put your mask on first, or you can't help anybody be passed out.
And that requires you to let go of these ideas of, like, my partner is my better half. Like, there is no half of a person. You are a complete person. They're a complete person.
You know what's crazy? I remember having this conversation at my former job. But, I was saying how, for me being the one in the room that, like, wasn't married, but I feel like it's really important to there's nothing wrong with being independent, but, like, you choose to be dependent on your partner for certain things because you're vulnerable enough to allow that. But to also know that I don't have to have it, but it's nice to know that you can provide this for me. And they're like, no, we depended on each other. And I'm like, no, I feel like you have to be a whole independent human being to be in a successful relationship.
You should view yourself as a pillar. I'm a pillar, and if I find another pillar, now we can hold something up together. And whether that be a family or whatever, you're building beyond yourself. And it is that. It's interdependence versus codependence. Codependence is like you and your dog. Your dog, like, I need you. I need to see where you are. I need to follow you everywhere. And interdependent is your cat. Your cat's like, I'm going to hit you up when I'm hungry. Beyond that, leave me alone. And healthy human relationships should be interdependent. I am my own person. You are your own person. I can lean on you for some stuff, and that gives me strength to be my own self. So it's like a baby will be more social knowing its parents in the room. Versus you leave them and you take off, and then they get a little bit nervous. So it's like in an interdependent relationship is what we should have. It isn't I'll die without you. I need you. It's knowing that you have my back lets me become more of an independent person. And now you and me as two independent people can hold up way more and build something way beyond ourselves.
Because nothing strong can be built on a weak foundation.
Exactly.
Because one thing we've all learned, I would say, is that sometimes guys really want you to be dependent on them.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
It's so funny, brother. I have a friend that is recently single, and he's fun employed because he just sold a company. So he's single, fun employed, and very wealthy. And he was talking about that idea of, realizing that some women are completely independent and they want to split the bill and do all of this stuff. But then some women are used to being taken care of, used to being like, oh, we have a date, call me my Uber. Let's do this, do that. And he's trying to figure out what was turning him on. And I was like, I think for a lot of us who grew up in specific households, is having a woman with their own opinion and their own finances, and then recognizing that it's challenging for women because the more opinions and the more finances you have, the smaller your dating pool is.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because the things that are those things reward a man. Those things don't reward a woman. So for me, like, if I'm competing to win a woman over, and the signals that are being sent to me are go to the gym and make more money. Whether I win the woman or not, I win having that. With women, it's you still want a man, and maybe you don't care, but I think women still want a man that earns equal or above in that capacity. So now, the more you earn, the less men are in that pool.
Right.
So I think that reduces it for you. So it's like, that's where you start to get this idea of like, and then I think the benefit for women is that teaches them to have a more holistic life. So for me, it teaches me that, like, I can maintain a level of low frequency attractiveness by just staying healthy and rich, And then I think for women, it's like, look, instead of us chasing just a hot body and a lot of money. We need to create a whole life, and we need to focus on family. We need to focus on mental health. We need to focus on all of these things, not just our status, because our status scares away men more than it does attract. Whereas for a man, it can attract. And I think for women, their power lies in their being selective,
right?
Being a chooser. And that's why, even when I sent you that message about like, women can't compete with women.
Yeah.
Because if you compete, you're giving up your power.
Yeah.
So never compete with another woman for a man, because you already lost.
All your boundaries are gone.
Your boundaries are gone, yeah. So by walking away, you maintain your power. Men can compete for a woman because each man wins regardless, because he's just stepping up his game. A woman doesn't step up her game competing with another woman.
What about potential, right? Because we talk about dating somebody who has potential, but is that a good or a bad idea? Because sometimes we can see in somebody like, look, they're not where they want to be, but they're on their way there. Like I could see they're putting in the work to make this happen. You know, maybe they don't have the financial status they want now. They're just starting this business. I can see in you what it is that you can be, right? But you're not there yet. Or maybe this person, I could see like the potential that you have to be great in a relationship, but you've never been in a real relationship before, and you've never, experienced love the way that you should. And, you could say, okay, you can't fall in love with potential, but then it's also like, are you Xing out somebody because they're not what you need them to be at this moment?
I think the only potential you can fall in love with is your own. And I feel like even the way you framed it, if we're talking about a janitor who wants to be a CEO, if that janitor is actually on path to be a CEO, he's already acting like a CEO. He already has that mindset. So he is who he is. And you can be in love with who he is, irrespective of his status.
Okay. Exactly.
Because now if you have a guy who, I don't know, who's a hustler, who's doing really well and everything's amazing, and then tomorrow he loses his job, you already have faith that he's going to figure it out. Not based off his circumstances, but based off who he is. Right? So fall in love with somebody's potential can't be with who they are. Maybe where they are is a different story.
Okay, that's a fact.
But now if they're getting up 6 a.m. and they're working 10 hours a day and they're putting in that work and they're still making you a priority and all this stuff is there, you're falling in love with who they are right then and there. And circumstances will continue to change.
The status will change.
Yeah. And I think that's important, because if you fall in love with somebody for potential for who they can be in terms of actual personality and qualities as a person, then you are denying who they are. So you're not even, at the moment, you're being blind to that for who they can be. And nobody changes for anybody else. People only change when they need to change.
When they're ready to change.
And unfortunately, it sucks, but when life goes the other way, that also reveals a lot of people. I think a lot of human beings are never put in a situation for us to see their worst qualities until shit hits the fan. And shit may not hit the fan for some people ever, or if at all. And I think that's an unpleasant, truth of all of this.
I just had a conversation with somebody about that. I was just talking about the situation. I was like, and when I say I'm not ready to be in a relationship, it's because there's a lot of things that I want to work on. Whoever I end up being with, I want to be an asset emotionally, financially, mentally. I want to provide all those things. And you know what I'm saying? I'm not where I want to be financially, but I know where I'm going and I know the work I have to put in.
Do you think you have to be where you want to be financially to be in a... Because I understand what you're saying, because you are who you are. And just similar to what Humble was saying, like you can see where you're going to be, but you might not be there yet. Yeah. But who you are already is that. So do you think, how important is it to be financially...
Money can't buy.
Because can you be financially ready to be in a relationship? Like, should you not date if you're not financially... Should you not be in a relationship if you're not financially there?
I don't know. I felt when I was a broke artist, it was way easier. I felt like it was way easier. I felt like I was only relying on my personality. We were getting $30 nachos for dinner, sharing that, having sex in the backseat of the car, and life was simple and happy. And then,
At least you had a car.
At least I had a car. Yeah. And then at least I had a car. Yeah. And I feel like now where you're dating and people know who you are, there's expectations around it. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And I think from that, and I still have that same mindset of it. I don't want to feel used. So, so I think, my first year in LA dating, it was like either you would meet girls who were like, I'm not dating a guy without a room who has a roommate. And like, they all got roommates.
Yeah, you have some nerve.
Yeah, they say that. And then, or like, they're working jobs, not careers, but they know all the expensive restaurants. And like I have wealthy friends in LA who don't even know about these restaurants, and I'm like, how do you know about that? So I felt like that was a challenge. Or then you meet a woman who's got a career, who's doing really well. And then they also have expensive taste, which they're allowed to because they can afford that. So it was like, for me, that was an adjustment in itself, and realizing that like, okay, this does become a financial situation and you want someone to like you for who you are. And it's really about, they're measuring finances because what they're really chasing is safety.
Right.
But I think what they really should look at is the person's qualities. Like, is he a worker? Because some people might have money from their family, and if that goes away, then they're just going to crash and burn. But if you see a guy who's like, not only does he have a gang of money, he's fixing his own sink, he's fixing his own car, he gets up every morning, he's manual labor, all of that, then you already know if all the money goes away, he's going to figure it out. And that's the safety that you actually want. You don't want a rich guy, you want someone to keep you, make you feel safe. The safety is the thing that you're chasing. And I think is really important. But I mean, obviously, and this was a conversation because I had those situations in LA of, I had a girl say, so how much do you make? I didn't know that was real.
Wow.
Yeah.
What'd you say? It fluctuates.
No, which it does. Well, my ass was saying, I'm like, are you asking me? I was pretty much like, my therapist said that girls aren't gold diggers. They just want to make sure you don't live in your mom's basement. So is that why you're asking? And then her response was like, no, I just need a guy to make 3 times more than me and I make a lot.
Whoa.
And it was like, and this was just like through happenstance, waiting for an Uber while sitting at a bar. But it was like, I had that. And then I met a dude that was like, I need my girls unemployed and without opinions. So I was like, these two were made for each other.
Right. Like, I have the perfect person for you.
Right.
I have the perfect person for you. I'd rather have somebody that has their own situation going on as well. But I think from that standpoint, I think there is an idea of like, what I've noticed, and this is just my experiences, a girl shouldn't have to help you get out of your mom's basement, but like, I think girls do like improving you. So I think for me,
we do like fixer-uppers sometimes.
But it's not fixer-uppers in terms of like the bill. Like, I noticed like,
we don't want a full gut rehab. But
you don't want to help me pay my bills, but you might want to help me with my skincare routine.
Yeah.
Or you want to help me turn my house into a home.
Right.
You want to get me not with my bare basic furniture, being like,
and we'd be like, what women was you dating before us that you have this furniture? Okay, let me help you. Oh, you just using regular lotion on your face?
Right.
That's
some moisturizer. That's a nighttime regimen going.
But it make you feel like, well, he ain't never really had nobody.
Right.
I get all those influencer boxes, so I just like keep all the creams that I get from all these different influencer boxes just in my bathroom, and I don't know what they are. And it takes a girl to come in and be like, "Ooh, this is really good. Use this, use this, use this."
And you're like, "All right, I'm gonna try it."
I'll try it, but then I can't keep it up by myself.
So, what did you learn about yourself from writing this book?
The big thing I learned from myself was there was always love in my life, and I couldn't receive it. Like, I just didn't know how to receive it. I thought vulnerability was weakness. I thought I was protecting myself doing that. I thought the opinions of other people mattered. I thought being liked was more important than being loved. Those were kind of the key things that I realized. And then I also realized that, love isn't glue. Love doesn't do anything to keep people together. It's supposed to motivate you to work. And I think I also got a really big understanding of like how, especially in this part of the world, the society that we live in, how so much messaging is sent to us by media and tradition and all of that. We don't realize we're still motivated by making money. Like this, 2.5 months of salary for a diamond ring, like that. They weren't telling you that for culture. They're telling you that so they can make money. The amount of hours that we work, and then watching how that in itself sabotages us. So even for me, for New Year's, I realized my New Year's resolution was just to carve out a permanent space in my life to be there for people that I care about. And that's not even romantic. I mean, just being there for my siblings, being there for my parents, being there for everybody. Because I realized they were going through things and not telling me because they thought it would be a burden for me.
Right.
And I realized, and that was just the house I grew up in. I grew up in a suck it up house. And then how that hurt me in relationships because I only went to my family in emergencies. I didn't go for them for the little things. But that's the vulnerability that connects you with people. And then that translated forward. So if I was dating somebody and they were sharing something that was painful to them, I would always try to solve it, And right now we kind of have that normalized guys try to solve your problems. But the reason guys try to solve your problems is you're triggering their pain. They don't know how to deal with it. So they're just trying to shut you up. So what I realized for myself was I was trying to shut people up when they were expressing pain to me. And empathy, and I literally feel like I learned empathy maybe 3 years ago. Empathy is feeling the pain and just sitting with them in pain and being like, that sucks. I know that sucks because it makes me feel like shit. Let's just hold each other and cry over it, which isn't something that any young man is ever taught to do.
No.
And you have to learn it that
Men
way.
are always told,
Yep.
don't
You
cry.
gotta fix it.
And to suck it up and to get over it.
And also just it takes a, it's like the Lion King, like what Nala did for Simba. It takes a woman to turn a boy to a man. And that is an inconvenient role for a female, because oftentimes they convert him to a man and then
Then they move on to be great with the next.
yeah, or potentially. I don't know too many stories of them moving on and being great. I feel like they get stuck in a pattern themselves. But I think there is that idea, especially for the mama's boys, because mama's boys are just, men who were given unconditional love by a woman for nothing. And there is no other woman that will give you unconditional love for nothing. And you shouldn't have unconditional love. You should be earning your love in some capacity. Even though love isn't earned, but you should be earning your spot in somebody's life.
Yeah.
Because they should have standards.
Or else I take it for granted.
You get taken for granted, yeah.
Yeah. So are you open for love now, you feel like, more than ever?
I'm working at it. I've had a few false starts. I'm working at it. It's
Work in
what I'm saying.
progress.
Huh? Work in progress. I think, the big thing I'm doing is focusing on my self-respect over the self-esteem, doing that, but also just communicating. So like, I'm in therapy, and the big thing my therapist tells me is speed up the time that and I think this is what the guy in your life needs to learn, is speed up the time that this isn't a fit for you. Like, don't
let it drag out.
And again, I'll admit it, I'm a sucker for a symmetrical face. Like, if she's beautiful and we're not compatible, I'll stick around.
Symmetrical face.
Yeah,
Physically attracted to you.
Yeah, and it's just like and then you start to see the incompatibilities of the red flags, and you're just like, all
She's
over.
still hot.
Yeah, no, but for real. And
Let
you're
me
like,
still
all
tap
over-
this a little more before.
Yeah, but
completely done
and it always bites you in the
I'm
ass.
not
in the
doing
long
nothing
run.
tonight.
Yeah.
Come on. Because sometimes you keep that cycle going and you really close yourself off to the potential of what could be, like finding the right person, because you're so blocked from spending time doing things that aren't going anywhere.
Exactly. So I think from that standpoint, I've been learning that too. But then one really good thing, and I think you got this from your experience, that my therapist made me do, is she made me relive my entire love life. Like, from like elementary school crushes to
Ghosts of
now.
relationships past.
All of them. She made me live them out loud. And then she observed my facial expressions as I told them. And then she's like, ooh, highlight that. And then pretty much I created my list of my perfect partner based off of what kind of brightened my face up.
Wow.
So as
Let's
you
try this
mentioned
later, Laura.
being seen, yeah.
We'll try this
that
later.
Sounds like a good exercise.
She's
a
actually
great
is so
exercise.
funny, because when I speak to my therapist, is while I'm talking and I'm saying, I see, I'm like, what are you writing? She's like, we'll get to it at the end. And one thing she did teach me when I spoke to her about this situation, before, like when I talk in the process, 2 months into it, I was like, oh my God, he makes me feel. She's like, wait, he does not make you feel anything. He influences the feelings that you already have within you.
Preach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, shout out to my
It's
therapist.
true.
She's amazing. This is the best thing I've ever done in my life, and I needed it so
Therapy is
much.
great.
And that's why I think I was able to process this so quickly. And you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I miss it. But I don't feel that what I felt them first 3 days, thinking in my head, rejection, or I'm not good enough. It was like, hold up, you are more than good. He doesn't know what he lost.
Yeah.
Yes, don't fit your lifestyle. But like you said, there's things that I know I have that money or nothing else can buy, or me not having a kid. Like, I know that. And I feel bad for him, because you lost someone that could potentially have been. But I'm happy.
Yeah, but
that
it doesn't sound like he was
it
ready
could have
for
went.
that.
And it could have went. He could have dragged this on, and he couldn't. I appreciate that he was honest. I just wish a little more, detailed with his standards.
Maybe from the
A lot
beginning.
early. Yeah, a lot earlier.
Yeah.
And I think a good thing that you said too,
Didn't
to the credit of your therapist, is a Peter Crone idea. He goes, don't say I love you. Say you show me where love is. You help reveal love. And it's like, you don't love people. They help you see. The love's always there. They just help you see what the love is. And you don't hate people. They show you where your fears are.
Love is a verb.
Yeah, love is a verb, and from that capacity. But I think that's super important, especially when it comes to these situations where it's like, there were elements of that I brought that out to you. And, again, as me, the analogy I used for my breakup was like, look, if I have to go to, if I'm in New York, I have to go to Boston, and there's a private jet going to LA, and there's a cruise ship like going to Florida, no matter how beautiful and pretty and wonderful and luxurious they are, I can't go on those. I have to get on the bus to Boston. And it's like, that's what people are. So like, you could have been this beautiful private jet, not taking him where he needed to go.
Exactly.
And that's just on him. And I think that's just really important, where we don't internalize these things for our value. And it's okay that we do, because we grew up in small community societies where our value actually was connected to what everybody thought of us. Because if they kicked us out of those tribes, we would have died, you know? So our fears of rejection feel like death because for 10,000 years, it was death. And now we just have to realize we're no longer in those societies no more. And that doesn't matter here. You know, it's on with the next one over here. And that's just a really hard thing because that's software built into us that we can't do nothing about. And the only thing we can do is become aware of it and better understand it. And then when we feel it, take 5 seconds to be like, oh, I feel rejection, but I wasn't actually rejected. That's their story. That's where they're at. I wanted them to be a certain way. I wanted them to want certain things, but that's my expectations of them versus what my standards are. And my standard should be, I want to be with somebody who wants to be with me. And if they don't, then they don't meet my standards, then good luck. Yeah, good luck to them. And then let me keep it moving.
Shit, on that note, fuck them, girl. No, period. On that note. Look, but no, honestly, Humble, thank you so much for coming through,
so much
to
for
talk to me.
having me.
I'm glad we're still friends, even though I'm not on the Breakfast Club anymore.
Why would we not? Why would we?
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Listen, I don't know if you remember our last conversation. I was just thanking you for J Electronica. I was just saying, like, you guys.
I just talked to him this morning.
Yeah? Is he doing any more music?
Yeah, he did. Actually has a lot of stuff. I can't even talk about it because I got to let him do it about to happen. But yes, he's been working in Mexico.
Because you called it last time too. I was like, is he ever releasing music? You're like, he is. And I think it was maybe about 5 months later, he dropped the album with Jay. So I was like, okay.
He's so random.
He's working.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, we have the book right here. Laura, you want to hold it up?
Yes, for sure.
Make sure everybody sees it. Yeah, she was so excited about this. How to be loved. Duh. Is that how you say it? How do we say this? How to be loved?
So you start with how to be loved, and by the end of the book, you'll realize how to be loved.
All right. Humble the Poet, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you guys
This
for
was a
having
great
me. I really
conversation.
appreciate
I
it.
know, right?
Very
We're going to do it
enlightening.
again.
Whenever.
Okay.
Our listeners just went to therapy.
All right. Lip service.